I guess this is Shark Week, folks. Recently, I talked about the ancestry of Lori Grenier of Shark Tank fame, whose family comes from Belarus. And today, I'm actually going to be talking about somebody else who has been a guest shark multiple times, whose family, wait for it, also comes from Belarus. Now, this guy I'm going to be talking about is Daniel Lubetzky. And for those of you who don't know, Daniel is a billionaire and entrepreneur who founded the company that sells Kind bars. While watching the hit TV show, I was very interested to hear him talk about his family and that his father was a Holocaust survivor, something I had no idea of. So I immediately turned to Google and Wikipedia and took it upon myself to learn as much as I could about Daniel and his family. So without further ado, I'm Yona Paley and I believe genealogy is fun. And today we're going to be profiling an inspiring figure within the food industry, as well as another famous person who I haven't yet mentioned. He was born 1968 in Mexico City to Myron Roman Lubezki and Sonia Americas. Now, Myron worked for a couple of duty-free shops, and he and the family actually moved from Mexico to Texas when Daniel was just a teenager, and that's where they settled. So even though he was born in Mexico, he lived for quite a while and even grew up in his early adulthood in the United States. And because I knew that Myron was a Holocaust survivor, I was actually able to find documents of him being interned. And I found these by looking at a website called the Arolsen Archives. For those of you who don't know, the Arolsen Archives is a German-run institute which contains a huge number of Holocaust-era records, and you can actually find people who were imprisoned in concentration camps, people who had to stay in refugee camps and things like this. And it's really one of the best sources for tracing people who were known to have been interned during the Holocaust. So even though Yad Vashem is really good for pages of testimony, people who were just murdered, massacred in towns, the Arolsen Archives contains records kept by the Germans and also by the Americans post-World War II. So it's just an incredible source of records. And anyone tracing relatives who survived or were killed in the Holocaust should definitely go check this site out. Here we have the Dachau camp file from Myron Lubezki, his brother Lazar, and their father Shmaria, all who survived the terrible ordeal. These files give extremely noteworthy information such as details about their parents' names, places of births, and occupations. And Shmaria Lubezki, as we can see, came from the city of Alytus, Lithuania. He was born to Kusil Lubezki and Pesia Soreski, and in addition to finding an incredible passport photo of him, in which you can see that his grandson is a spitting image of him, I was also lucky to obtain his 1898 birth record, which was indexed online through Litfoxig. Now, before we continue, you might be wondering if the famous cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezky is related to Daniel Lubetzky, and the answer to this is unequivocally yes. You see, Shmaria had at least 6 siblings, one of who was named Max, and Max also immigrated to Mexico, and we can find through a bunch of records from Mexico as well as interviews given with Emmanuel that was his grandfather. So essentially, both Emmanuel and Daniel descend from Kusil Lubezki, and that makes them second cousins. Now, as a big film buff, this was really exciting for me because I hadn't even gone into this research looking for Emmanuel Lubezki. I didn't even connect that they might have been related until suddenly I was like, wait a minute, Emmanuel Lubezki was born in Mexico as well. Is it possible that they're related? According to a page of testimony from Yad Vashem, Daniel Lubetzky sadly perished in the Shoah even while a couple of his sons survived. And from looking from birth records from Alytus, Lithuania, we can see that Daniel was actually from a town called Voronava in modern-day Belarus, and his father was named Meir. A number of censuses from Voronava and surrounding villages show that Meir and his wife Brena had at least 6 children, and that Meir had a younger brother Natal, and both of them were children of Abram. Now this is sadly where the trail runs cold, because there are actually quite a number of Abram Lubezkis from Voronava, and it's not entirely clear which of them is Meir's father. There were 2 possible ones that I think are the most likely. There was an Abram son of Meir, and then there's also an Abram son of Itzko. The reason I think that these 2 are the most likely is because the Abram son of Itzko shows up in a census pretty much right next to Meir son of Abram, but the thing is there's like a weird difference in age where he would have been only 14 when his son was born, which is completely possible, but there's nothing really proving that this is the case. There's also a death record for an Abram son of Meir that shows up in the same town as Meir son of Abram died, and the age does seem correct for being the father. But given that there's 2 of these and there's also a bunch of other Abrams, I just didn't feel confident determining which one of these was the right guy. So for now, that means that we are brick-walled at Daniel and Emmanuel's 3rd great-grandfather, Abram Lubezki. So there you go, folks. Next time you're eating a Kind Bar or rewatching The Tree of Life for the 100 millionth time, you can sit back and say that you know where the family comes from, the Lubezkis from Voronava, Belarus. If you like this episode, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to follow me on social media. I've included links down below to my Instagram and my Twitter. Give me your thoughts, follow me on the social media, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.